fun little ride.
Today on Combustion Chamber, it is a hot one here in Florida, but hotter than that is this 1995 heavily modified 240SX. Let's get after it. Welcome back to Combustion Chamber. On today's episode, we have this badass 95 240SX. But before we get to this awesome car, I want to give a shout out to our featured fan, Melissa. Melissa, you're a great supporter of the show. More importantly, you're an absolutely dear friend. And I want to dedicate this episode to you. We got a lady who built and drove this car along with her husband. And I just thought of you when we were driving the car. So this episode's for you. Now let's go check out this awesome Nissan. April, thank you very much for being on the show today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
How did you come about getting this car?
So when I was in college, I had some friends that had 240s, S13 models actually, and it was time for me to get a new car. So I wanted something that was quick, fun to drive, something that could be modified to how I wanted it to be.
A lot of people, they pay to get stuff done. They talk about it, I had this done, but you've actually done work on this car with your husband. Can you tell us about that?
One of the best things about this project is working with my husband. We've done everything ourselves except for the paint. That's the only thing that we didn't do. It's got a Vertex kit on it. We also have upgraded suspension, Tane coilovers, the Volk wheels, so it's got TE37s on it. I like the touch of red on it. I think it's the right wheel for this car.
Now this car is far from stock. What have you done in terms of just the drivetrain on this car?
Lots of modifications here. When I got the 240, it was an automatic transmission. One of my criteria was having a manual transmission. We have completely redone everything under the hood. Different engine, it's swapped out with an SR20 DET, which is an engine that came in the Japanese models. We've also got full exhaust, so from the turbo back, intake manifold, fuel rail. It's been tubbed out, all the holes have been welded up, custom piping, custom airbox, all the wiring is tucked. I like things very simple and clean. We do have a brake booster eliminator on it. So the brakes are a little hard. You do have to kind of brake hard. I'm a hard braker anyway, so that worked out well for me.
So the engine certainly is not stock. You've got a really powerful turbo on there. Can you tell us about that?
So I had a T28 turbo and we have upgraded to a Tomei turbo. And then of course we also have front mount intercooler. The Tomei turbo, I'm really happy with it. Spools up well, and one of the things I love about driving the car is the blow-off valve. So I love the sound of it when I'm driving. So once we get on the road, I'm sure you're gonna love that too.
So what kind of reactions do you get when you bring this out to a show?
So typically the first reaction I get is that it's really clean. And honestly, once I park it and pop the hood, it's usually even more so that people are like, wow. The other thing that I get is sometimes people are unsure of what it is. So it is a 95 240SX. The 240SX, the S14s, had two different front end versions. So there was an earlier version that's referred to as the Zinky. And then there's a later version, which is the Kooky. So I have the earlier version, I do have a 95, but I have a Kooky front end conversion. So a lot of times people are unsure of exactly what year it is if they just kind of see it driving up.
So I'm a domestic guy and I hear S14 or S15, I hear these designations. What do those mean for people like me who don't know anything about these cars?
Sure, so it's the chassis code for the car. So there was an S12, S13, S14, there's an S15. Most commonly here in the US, you'll see S13s and S14s modified. And you can tell they're different, they have different body styles. The S14 comes in a coupe, whereas the S13 had a hatch. You've probably seen some of them with the pop-up headlights. there's been a lot of modifications done on the interior of this car too. The AC controls actually go at the top of the dash instead of the gauges, but they're easier to see up here, so it made more sense to move them. There used to be an ashtray down here, so that's not something I needed, so it just made sense to kind of move that around. The headliner is custom. Little things like that, though, that most people don't notice because, when you park at a show or something like that, you spend a lot of time sticking your head in the car.
Well, especially, since this car does sit kind of low.
It does.
It's not the first thing you notice, but it looks really nice in here. And the dash is, now tell me, the dash is original, correct?
It is, and it's really common for them to be cracked. We try to take very good care of this one. My husband and I have both had 240s for probably about 8 years. And this particular one, this version of it, took about 3 years to build. Definitely not a quick process. I can see how for some people it gets overwhelming to have a project car, but...
Yeah, but if you stick with it, the payout is, and I don't mean financially, but the payout is so worth it.
It is.
So there's one thing we have to do in this episode, and I know if I don't have you do it, I'm going to get a bunch of negative comments. I would love it if you drove this car next.
Sure, absolutely.
I got to ask you though.
Yeah.
When they see a lady drive up in this car, it's an unusual sight.
It is an unusual sight.
What is that like?
It's interesting. So a lot of times I drive the car, my husband will ride with me, and we'll pull up somewhere. And even though I'm driving the car, when we get to a show, the assumption is that it is my husband's car. So I guess I'm just, hanging out, just driving. Definitely different in the car scene being a female. It's almost like you're held to a different standard. It's just one of those things that I feel like the more that we get into the car scene, the more females that we have out there, that, it's becoming more common. So at least that's a nice thing.
We've now left the United States, we're in Mexico now.
It's a fun little ride.
Passenger seat, it's not nearly as fun as driving, but you feel everything. Like it's a nice car that's got you in touch with the road. What you need is a beer tap shifter, a big spoiler. This car's missing a couple
That's
things.
right, it is.
It needs to be what Pabst Blue Ribbon right here. I want to thank our guest and her husband today for bringing out this car for all of us to enjoy. Are you in the JDM scene? Do you have a car similar to this? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this episode, hit that thumbs up and that subscribe button and bell icon for instant notifications when we go live with new episodes such as this. If you really love us, check us out on Patreon, and we're also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I want to thank all of y'all for watching today. While this car was very new to me, we have had some really awesome and unique JDM on our show before. So click right here for some awesome episodes. I 100% guarantee you're going to love the unique and rarity of those vehicles.